and threatening and potentially doing damage to the constitutional imperative of an independent judiciary that the American people can have faith in. It matters. It matters that the people have faith in the impartiality of the court. Alexander Hamilton wrote in Federalist 78, he said, "The complete independence of the courts of justice is peculiarly essential for a limited constitution." To guarantee that independence, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, to protect against political pressure, the framers included the Emoluments Clause, the Compensation Clause, which restricts the ability of either branch of government to reduce a judge's compensation while they're in office, life tenure, removal only by impeachment, and a supermajority impeachment in the United States Senate. Pretty bold and provocative at the time statements of, we expect this branch of government to be co-equal, independent, and it's essential that its believability, there's confidence of the people. It's like Mussolini's comment, how many regiments does the Pope have? Well, you know, what does the court have? What does it have? It has its reputation that it is in fact impartial. That is in fact prepared to rule on the merits. That it is not subject to intimidation. That's a precious commodity that in our separation of powers, the court cannot afford to have undermined. All these protections were designed to do two things: reinforce in the minds of the public the absolute impartiality of the federal judiciary, the Supreme Court in particular, and protect the federal judiciary from being able to be influenced by either of the political branches. The framers gave concrete substance to the idea that ours is, as Chief Justice Marshall put it, a government of laws and not of men. It sounds almost like a high school civics class, but it's real. It's consequential. It really matters. Look at the lengths even a divided court has gone to over our history on extremely divisive subjects to make sure, even though they had enough votes to get a preponderance beyond a single vote, so that they would say to the country, this is the law of the land. You know, the fact is that one of the founding fathers, in my view, did not think, to quote a perceptive commentator who wrote just a couple days ago, the federal courts, litigation in the federal courts is not deal-making by another means. Surely the framers of our Constitution did not envision a presidential candidate of one of the major political parties personally attacking a sitting federal judge as the nominee or the presumptive nominee of a major party, attacking a federal judge because that judge ruled against the candidate in his private capacity as a citizen in a civil case. For a candidate to call a judge a hater, a total disgrace, to quote him, because he allowed people claiming to have been victimized by the candidate in his capacity as a private businessman to proceed, and because the judge dares to unseal some documents, which is in his power to do, detailing their victimization. I don't think the framers envisioned a presidential candidate accusing a judge of being incapable of reaching a fair decision because of his ethnic descent, because he was Hispanic or anything else, because he was from Tennessee or because he was from Delaware, because he was or she was anything identifiable as distinct from who the candidate was. Because, he says, the judge ruled against him in light of his anti-Mexican proposals. Mr. Trump isn't unique in attempting to intimidate the federal judiciary in the case. Other private citizens have tried to pressure the judiciary from time to time, but not private citizens who are placed in close range of the White House by one of our great political parties. It's one thing for a private citizen to attempt to throw his economic or political weight around as an unelected official, to try to influence, help him demolish his adversary, a phrase often used by this particular fellow, in a judicial proceeding. It's quite another thing for the presumptive candidate of a major party to do the same thing. And up to now, you may say, well, Joe, and folks, I have not been out responding to, in my capacity as vice president, to anything that Mr. Trump has said. But it's my view that a presidential candidate who publicly attacks a sitting federal judge who ruled in a way that was against his own economic interests cannot be trusted to respect the independence of the judiciary as a president. Again, you may view this as, I'm sure, for those who are saying, and with good reason, well, I think that's a particularly harsh judgment, but there's no real connection here. Let's look at what that presumptive nominee said. His own words. After calling the judge presiding over a fraud suit against him a total disgrace, Mr. Trump said, and I quote, these are his exact words, but, quote, but we will come back in November. Wouldn't that be wild if I'm president and I come back and do a civil case? He went on to say, and I'm quoting, wouldn't it be wild as president to come back in November to do a civil case? How can that be interpreted in any other way than as a direct threat? These are words of someone who sees our federal judiciary not as an independent branch of government, but as a tool for him to manipulate so he can do what he calls deal with the laws of our country. These are words, in my view, of one who would defy the courts if they ruled against him as president. Not just in a business case, but a case challenging government abuse of power. Raising the specter of, quote, coming back in November, quote, doing a civil case from the Oval Office is not so veiled a threat. It's a direct threat. And to use the office of the presidency, were he to acquire it, to intimidate and undermine an independent judiciary would be blatantly unconstitutional abuse of power. Either Mr. Trump, which is possible, doesn't understand. I mean that sincerely. He's a bright guy. I'm not saying that, not pretending but he either doesn't understand because this is a realm in which he's never dealt before, or he doesn't care. that it would border on an impeachable offense for a president actually to use the great powers of the office to attempt to undermine a federal judge by placing pressure on that judge in any case, especially one the president has, in this case, of personal financial stake. This kind of conduct is pernicious and unprecedented, and the legal profession should not remain silent, should not put up with it. As one prominent conservative legal commentator put it this way, this behavior in a president smacks of authoritarianism and tyranny. I agree. I agree with that commentator. You all know this as well or better than I do. Our founders created an independent judiciary because, as Hamilton wrote in Federal 78, quoting Montesquieu, there is no liberty if the power of judging is not separated from the legislative and executive powers. I find Donald Trump's conduct in this regard reprehensible, evidenced by the bipartisan condemnation of the action for what it is: a dangerous attack on a vital pillar of democracy, the independent judiciary, by threats of intimidation, and undercutting the legitimacy of a judge by suggesting that because of his heritage, he's incapable of being fair. In addition to this, it is racist. In addition to this. But it's not the racism that frightens me. We've dealt with racists before. It's the potential impact on the court. And I might add a friendly note to my Republican friends, many of them longtime colleagues in the Senate. They assail Trump's unacceptable and wrong censure of the judiciary, yet refuse to confirm a judge of unquestionable credentials to the Supreme Court so that Mr. Trump can fill that vacancy. Drives them crazy. I have so many Republican friends. No, you think I'm joking. If you notice, as they'll tell you, anytime we have a crisis, send Joe. It's like that old commercial for Life cereal. Mikey will eat it, you know, send Joe. It's because with all this dysfunction, I still genuinely respect the Senate. It's the greatest honor of my life has served in the United States Senate as long as I have. And the vast majority of my Republican colleagues know better. This is an age of intimidation by gigantic contribution capability from certain areas and because of the consequence of gerrymandering. But the bulk, the reason I don't lose face is the bulk know better. The bulk know better. The failure of the Senate Republicans, though, to even hold a hearing on an eminently qualified Chief Judge Merrick Garland